Now we're going to go to debate number 1 tonight. The first official proof that China is backing Maoists. The report Times Now began the news hour with tonight. Times Now has accessed an exclusive intelligence bureau note that details out in shocking details China's plans to use Maoist terrorists to launch attacks against India. The note also explains full details of a concept of a strategic united front which is being chalked out, which is being designed to bring under its umbrella terror groups in Assam, Arunachal Pradesh, the Northeast, Manipur and Jammu and Kashmir. Tonight on the news hour, I have former diplomat M.K. Bhadrakumar joining us from Thiruvananthapuram. Kiran Raiju is a Congress leader and former member of parliament from Arunachal Pradesh, and Maruf Raza is with us tonight. Maruf, let me start with you. You know, we have often talked about it, but now we have this official proof. The government knows what the Chinese are up to, especially with the Maoists.
Arnav, I'd like to correct you a bit. I think only one part of the government knows what the Chinese are up to. Certainly not the other part, and North Bloc and South Bloc don't seem to be talking, because on one side North Bloc is putting together a whole lot of data about Chinese and their nefarious designs in India. On the other side, South Bloc is very keen to further relationship, and Prime Minister in particular is keen to build up further rapport with the Chinese. So I think there is a disconnect. The second aspect is that traditionally the Chinese have been involved in the Northeast. In the 70s and 60s, Nagaland, various insurgent groups had gone across to China and trained. The PLA from Manipur had done that. The MNF from Mizoram had done that. So therefore there is a historical background to that. But most importantly, there are two issues. One is we failed to learn the lessons of the past, whether in the Northeast or from the Naxal insurgency within India, and implement it suitably in the Northeast, where if you don't have adequately effective governance, you will have people wanting to secede from the Indian Union. You will have people wanting to go the way the Chinese are designing for them to go. And the second aspect is, and that's a larger issue which never gets debated, which is there is a complete disconnect in the understanding of the political elite about what is a state issue and what is a center issue. All these insurgencies are seen as policing problems with individual states wanting to deal with them, and that's the reason we've not been able to address the Naxal insurgency in central India, where there is no centralized blueprint about how we should tackle it all together, and we're dealing it piecemeal. So Orissa is doing one thing and Chhattisgarh is doing another thing and Jharkhand is doing another thing, and that's precisely the reason why there is going to be confusion in the Northeast, and I don't see any reason why China is not going to take advantage of it, because China sees India as its largest and single biggest rival to China's dominance of Asia. So unsettle India and the dominance goes away.
Well, I think we need to put these two pieces of paper with us tonight, and then these are two hitherto secret documents, both of which we have with us here at Times Now. On my right is a document which is, on my left is a document, there's an Intelligence Bureau document. It gives full details of what is going on and how the Chinese are actually planning these so-called revolutionary groups in the Northeast and Kashmir, so the government knows about this. Another document which I have with me tonight talks about how the CPI Maoist is working in Arunachal and has entered large parts of Arunachal Pradesh, details out exact regions of Arunachal Pradesh where the Maoists have been active. Kiran Raiju, why are people not talking about what's happening in Arunachal Pradesh? I mean, if the Maoists get a foothold in your state, then that's the worst thing that can happen from a strategic point of view.
Yes, last month, Arnav, there was a report which categorically stated that the Maoists have started their movement in Arunachal Pradesh because Arunachal is coming up with huge numbers of mega hydropower projects. And the report which surfaced officially was that they have started their activities actively and trying to influence the local people. But at this point of time, I would like to make one point that many of the anti-dam movement in Arunachal Pradesh are very, very indigenous in nature, and I have met many of these anti-dam activists. They are, because for the tribal people, land is life. So they are not directly or indirectly so far involved with any Maoist activities. I cannot say anything about Assam right now, but very important point I want to make is any kind of Maoist intrusion inside Arunachal Pradesh or Assam and any part of Northeast is a red signal. It's a danger because Maoism is not indigenous movement. It is an ideologically driven, supported from outside. As the government of India also said last year that the Chinese have supplied arms and ammunition to the Maoist guerrillas, and they are waging a protracted war. So Northeast is definitely a very soft target for them. And presently, what I know about the state government is they are going to take very strong action, if at all. They have already started their activities inside the state of Arunachal Pradesh. But while doing that, it must be very carefully done with, because if any tribal groups or organization, because it's a multi-ethnic tribal state, if any wrong accusations are made against any tribal community, there may be repercussion which normally you see in state of Jharkhand or Chhattisgarh and other areas. So at this point of time, the report is very strongly coming out. But Arnav, you have rightly said that there should have been more debate, and in the national stage or at the states, the debate has not really come up at the expected level, because this is very, very serious issue, and we must really deal this issue very firmly, seriously. Any organization which challenges the authority of the state,
I think the question is,
challenges state.
Question is tonight, and you know, Mr. Bhadra Kumar, who is with us here on Times Now tonight. Often, Mr. Bhadra Kumar, we have different views on this subject. But wouldn't you feel that this is the time to confront the Chinese with the evidence and tell them to stop running these supply routes for the Maoists right from the northeast down to Jungle Mahal in West Bengal? Isn't it time to confront Beijing instead of being, you know, playing with kid gloves with them anymore?
See, I have 2-3 points to make. To begin with, I almost completely agree with what was stated by the first person you interviewed from Arunachal Pradesh, an honorable minister, if I heard it rightly. I am almost completely in agreement with him. Number one is there is a historical background to this, in the sense that in the 60s and 70s, you know, there was this kind of activity by the Chinese against India. But then it took place in a certain context. That is that in the 50s, as we all know, the CIA, Chiang Kai-shek's agents, they set up camps in India, and we allowed our territory to be used for subversive activities against China. China retaliated, and then it went on, and after some time, both sides disengaged, knowing the futility of this sort of an exercise. So first of all, we have to ask certain questions very frankly about this.
No,
this is indeed correct.
Sir, this is not, sir, the report which I have quoted tonight is a report which is 2 weeks old. No, I'm just putting the dates right. Since you are saying that this is some old historical thing, this is 2 weeks old, the latest evidence.
Having worked in the government and, you know, something like 14-15 years dealing with Pakistan, I know what is a low-grade intelligence and what is an intelligence that we have to take seriously. Now the point is, it all depends on at what level and what kind of intelligence is being churned out. All kinds of reports can come out of the Intelligence Bureau, and that is not always necessarily the gospel truth. I would like to believe in my Prime Minister. Let me say, please.
Are you underplaying this?
I would like to.
How do you define this as low-grade intelligence?
I would completely, because I would like to believe in my own Prime Minister. I think our Prime Minister made a very major statement about relations with India when he said that he sincerely believes that the Chinese leadership wants to have a normal relationship with India and to settle the outstanding problems with India. Now we have to believe that. And I am very sure that, you know, from the National Security Council, from the other intelligence agencies in the country, the Prime Minister gets input.
No, I don't think, I'll go to Maruf next. Maruf, your response, I just must say here, I do not think that the Prime Minister contradicted the then Home Secretary, the very eminent G.K. Pillai, when he spoke about the Maoist terrorists getting arms through China way back in 2009. Not once did the PMO contradict the Home Ministry on that, so we believe the Prime Minister and the Home Ministry also on that. Maruf, is this low-grade intelligence we're talking about with two multiple reports tonight?
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, it's very difficult to tell whether it's low grade or high grade. It depends on your state of perception. I mean, what is it you want to take seriously? But the fact is that the Prime Minister has been on record on more occasions than one to say that Maoism and Naxalism is India's threat number one. And therefore, I don't think the Prime Minister would have completely dismissed anything to do with Maoism and terrorism. The other aspect is that China has traditionally been known to play a double game. On one side, it is talking about trade with India and bilateral relations, but there's been no movement forward, on a serious note, on solving the border issue. But at the same time, China has got the string of pearls strategy against India. It's been surrounding India from Gwadar port to northern Kashmir to Arunachal, where it continues to claim Indian territory despite India and China having agreed that settled areas will not be disturbed. But most importantly, I think we must understand that the Prime Minister, with all his wisdom, tends to look at bilateral relations between two countries purely from an economic prism. I have not seen from this Prime Minister, at least in his second tenure, any strategic vision, whether in dealing with Pakistan or dealing with Afghanistan or dealing with China. So I seriously contest what the PMO is up to, and I don't think the PMO is listening to what other ministries are doing, is riding roughshod. The most important issue, Arnab, the most important issue is Maoism and Naxalism is a very, very likely threat from India's northeast, because those areas tend to be neglected, and when there is no good governance, when there is no contiguity of command and control between all the states, this problem will play up, and China would use it to its advantage, particularly because China has growing interest in Burma and the energy resources there. China has growing interest in unsettling India so that India doesn't contest Chinese hegemony in Asia.
There are two ways of looking at it.
We must understand that. If we don't, we are missing the central point.
Maruf, Kiran Raiju want to come in. Yes, Kiran.
One very important point is, without looking into the nature of the report, whether low grade or high grade, what is important is, already there are so many insurgent groups working in entire northeast. The least groups, whatever, any movement is in Arunachal. Arunachal doesn't have its own home ground, so-called underground organizations.